We're fearlessly talking about the biggest stories that matter to you the most. Breaking news, John Calipari is finalizing a 5-year deal to become the Arkansas Razorbacks' next head coach, covering college sports like no one else. The biggest guests in sports. We now welcome in Hall of Famer Jim Calhoun.
Such a pride I had, I came to Connecticut.
The legend, Tim Tebow, joins us.
We'll run it back. I like it.
The legend, Herschel Walker. Welcome in, everybody. Tuesday night edition, Aaron Torres Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Aaron Torres. Hope everybody's doing well. Hope everybody's having a great day. And when I say we got ourselves a jam-packed Tuesday, it's late April. We're still rolling. We got ourselves so much to discuss. We're going to open UConn, the news. UConn, the whole state of Connecticut basically has been shut down since Saturday night, waiting for news on Alex Karaban. It becomes official on Monday or Tuesday afternoon. He is returning to UConn. We will discuss that, why my Huskies are right back in the title chase in 2025-26. Talk a little bit, some portal news. You know, listen, we're getting to that point. There's not that much left in the portal, but big news. Chad Baker-Mazara is on the move. He's headed to the must-bus playing at USC. We'll discuss what is certainly an interesting fit there. Andrei Stojakovic headed to Illinois. We did a deep dive on Monday. We'll talk about that a little bit more. Who else? Cedric Howard going to Duke, so we'll discuss that. Also, did see a very interesting stat on the Kentucky Wildcats that I want to dive into. I think, to me, speaks to the fact that maybe these Wildcats are a little bit better than a lot of people have been giving them credit for. And then finally, we will wrap the show. TMZ Torres. I don't talk very much about the TMZ world, but Bill Belichick, this thing is getting weird with that girlfriend of his that's young enough to be his granddaughter. I don't generally dive into people's personal lives, but this one, it's dipping into the world of college sports. We cover college sports, so we got to go ahead and discuss it all. Before we get started, a couple quick reminders. One, make sure you're subscribed to the Aaron Torres Pod YouTube channel. New clips, new videos going up every single day. I promised you during the college hoop season we wouldn't stop talking college hoops just because the games went final. We have been rocking and rolling. We're not going to slow down. At some point, we'll do our official transfer portal rankings. We'll do our updated top 25. We'll do our college hoops off-season grades. That's all still to come as we get through April into May and June. Obviously, we'll talk more college football as we get closer, but make sure you're subscribed on YouTube. Also, Apple and Spotify. Producer Matt has already pinned the podcast feed, the Apple feed at the top of the YouTube chat. If you're watching on YouTube, do me a favor. Go ahead, click podcasts, download a couple podcasts, give us a 5-star rating and review. Even if you're watching on YouTube, we really do appreciate your support on the podcast feed. Speaking of support, you know who else's support we appreciate? Our friends. We appreciate our partners. We appreciate Cauley Puffs and CauleyPuffs.com, okay? So listen, Cauley Puffs, I've been telling you about Cauley Puffs since the start of last football season, so it's been a long time. We've been with them for close to a year now, and I just want to tell you, it's a great partnership. It's a great product. It's a product that I believe in, and most importantly, it's a product that you should believe in too. Why is that? It's because it's now April going into May. The next time we speak, it will pretty much be May. You need a snack as you get ready for beach season, for lake season, for pool season, for sitting on your front lawn with your shirt off season. You need a snack that is both healthy but delicious as well. That's where Cauley Puffs comes in. Okay, so I've told you about the story. Family-owned company, not far from where I live, and Joey, the founder, no different than you, was sitting on the couch one day watching sports, said, I need a snack that is healthy but delicious. I need something I'm going to like, my kids are going to like. I need an alternative to the crap in your grocery aisle. So he came up with Cauley Puffs. Baked, not fried, avocado oil, no grease, healthy ingredients. So many of you have tried them. I appreciate your support. Cauley Puffs appreciates your support. Here's the cool part. The best part about this product is that they are healthy and delicious. And if you have not tried them yourself, now's the time to do so. For more information, is what I need you to do. Go to CauleyPuffs.com. That's CauleyPuffs.com, CauleyPuffs.com. They're also available on Amazon.com as well. So go to Amazon.com, search Cauley Puffs. You can throw a couple in your cart, whatever else is in your cart. I don't want to know. I don't want to get into your personal life. Don't want to know what's in that cart. but throw some Collie Puffs in. Try them for yourself. You're going to like them. We appreciate their support. Thank you again to Collie Puffs. With that said, it is a busy Tuesday afternoon in sports, maybe Wednesday when you're listening on podcast. There is no more time to waste, so let's go ahead and get to the topic of the day. Topic of the day, listen, it's the UConn Huskies, okay? So first of all, a couple things with UConn. One, we really haven't talked a ton about UConn over the course of the offseason. They, to me, have been a lot like BYU, a lot like Arkansas. They were a team that was never going to be defined by bringing in 5, 6, 7 players in the transfer portal. That's not what this offseason was about for them. It was about retention. It was about rebuilding off of a good but not great season, a season that is not the standard of UConn basketball. And largely they did that. Torres Reed, starting center next year, is coming back. Solo Ball, second team All Big East, coming back. 3 of the 4 recruits, I should say, that signed in the fall are coming in. But I bring it up because there was one piece that was kind of the glue that was going to hold it all together. If UConn was going to reach the potential of what they could be in 2025, 2026, they needed Alex Karaban back. 3-year starter, 2-time national champion, 14 points per game this season. Well, I bring it up. NBA draft deadline was, how about this? It was Saturday night, okay? Saturday at midnight was the NBA draft deadline. We get no word on him all day Sunday. Did the show Sunday night. There was no word. Well, it's coming Monday for sure, right? No, not exactly. Tuesday morning, UConn officially announces Alex Karaban will return for his final season at UConn, his 4th as a starter, his 5th in the program, to which I just say, get ready, people, because UConn is very much back in the title mix. This is huge news for not only UConn, but Big East basketball and college basketball as a whole coming into 2025, 2026. Okay, so let's go ahead and dive in. Karaban, very interesting player. As I said, was a starter on the 2 national championship teams in 2023, 2024, 2022, 2023, 2024. I remember even this year, Sean Miller made some comment about he's one of the greatest winners that we've ever had in college basketball. And so he's been part of this program. He's been part of the DNA. Remember, after the season, when UConn lost to Florida in the second round of the NCAA tournament, Dan Hurley said this program changed when Alex Karaban was put into the starting lineup and when he came here and when he got eligible and all that stuff. Averaged 14 per game this year. What I would say, because I know non-UConn fans are going to say it, I'll say it before you get there. It was, I don't know about a disappointing season, but I don't think even Alex Karaban lived up to the standards that he was expecting coming into this year. Remember, last year, he was one of the big names at the NBA draft deadline that took until the final days of the NBA draft deadline to decide that he was coming back to college basketball. I think if he had stayed in the NBA draft last year, coming off the 2nd national championship, there's a chance he goes late 1st round. He certainly goes early in the 2nd round. And so I bring it up because average 14 per game this year, but it was a little bit of a disappointing year. 3-point percentage did dip. There were struggles in the middle of the year. Now, part of it was he had a concussion early in the year. I was told that maybe it lingered a little bit as the season wore on. But at the same time, it was a little bit disappointing. He didn't live up to expectations. So that was I got 2 things when I put out a tweet saying that he was coming back. Oh, where else was he going? Well, listen, he is still a very good player that I believe had a very good chance of being drafted in the 2nd round, even coming off a disappointing season. So that's 1. But then 2, I got a lot of, Torres, you told us when he came back last year that UConn was going to be a title contender. They weren't very good. You don't know what you're talking about. It's like, okay, well, listen, first of all, maybe I don't know what I'm talking about. I mean, everybody's entitled to their opinion. I think I'm right more than I'm wrong. But 2, I think what's interesting about, Karaban next year versus Karaban this past year is I do think that you have to factor in the pieces that Dan Hurley is going to have around him. And I do expect a bounce back year. And I do very much expect for UConn to be back in the title mix again. By the way, thank you, producer Matt. Our Torres on UConn page is humming. If you're a UConn fan on Twitter, follow us, Torres on UConn. So in terms of why I think this is different, why I think this is big, and why I expect UConn to be better next year, to me, It's actually pretty straightforward, okay? So I just think UConn's going to be better across the board next year. Now, this past offseason, going into the 2024-2025 season, I think there were a lot of people in the media, myself included. I think we probably just kind of grandfathered UConn into the top 5, into the top 10, because we said Dan Hurley's coming off back-to-back national championships, and doubting him feels really stupid. But I think it became evident pretty quick, Maui Invitational, et cetera, that the team was flawed, that it was not a perfect product on the floor, and that there were going to be deficiencies. From the beginning, you can go back to my tweets in Maui, and I said, they don't got that big guard, that lead guard that can make a difference, that can just make plays when things break down. Love Hassan Diarra. Love what he's about. Love what he did for the program. Okay, I actually was texting with Hassan the other day, and we had him on the show, and I wish him nothing but the best going forward. But at the same time, you look at Hassan, he was a guy that was playing through injury all year and was really probably best in the role that he played 2 seasons ago as a backup point guard to Tristan Newton. Well, Tristan Newton graduated this year. There was no real replacement. And part of the reason why I think UConn is going to be better next year is because they got a big guard coming in to play the lead guard position in that offense. Silas Demery from Georgia. This is a guy that when he entered the portal, everybody wanted. I know every fan base, Torres, you're overhyping him, whatever. All I know is this. St. John's wanted him badly. BYU wanted him badly. Mark Pope flew to his home to have dinner with him on a Saturday night. I remember that story loud and clear, okay? He's from Carolina. I believe NC State made a push. I believe UNC at least made a few phone calls. So this was a kid everybody wanted. He is going to UConn. He is going to step into the lead guard position. And I'll say this, I think if you're a UConn fan, you have to be excited. Silas Demery has yet to play with Alex Karaban and was sending out tweets on Tuesday morning, welcoming him back, talking about how excited he is to play with him. So I think having that lead guard all of a sudden changes everything. And I think it allows the rest of the pieces to fall into place alongside Alex Karaban. In addition to Silas Demery, solo ball, as you can see on the screen, was the team's second leading scorer this year. Second team All Big East as a true sophomore in his first year as a starter. He was not only one of the most improved players on UConn, he was one of the most improved players in the Big East and in all of college basketball this year. I forget, I think I tweeted it at some point, but Solo Ball is a guy that went from averaging 3 points per game as a freshman to 14.5 on 41% three-point shooting as a sophomore. All Big East second team. Now, listen, I think it's hard to imagine he makes a bigger leap than he did from freshman to sophomore year, but you go from second team All Big East to first team All Big East with a better point guard and more talent around you, all of a sudden we're talking about a completely different team. By the way, Braylon Mullins, we talked about the fact off the top that 3 of the 4 guys that signed in the fall are coming to UConn. Darius Adams decommits. I think that's just how the world works. But Braylon Mullins is going to start and be a contributor, and I think be a big contributor this year. Dan Hurley's already come out and said he expects him to be a one and done. Well, if you're a one and done, it means that you're playing, that you're contributing, and that you're having success as a true freshman. And oh, by the way, outside of Karaban, you also have Terrace Reed coming back, who I believe has a chance to be one of the most improved players in the Big East this year, and one of the most improved players nationally, this year. A guy that quote-unquote averaged 9.5 points and 7.5 rebounds. But remember, it wasn't really until late in the year in which he really got comfortable. Was anybody else besides me watching when he had 24 and 18 in a win over Providence late in the year? Because, I was watching that one. How about 15 and 6 in the second game against St. John's? How about 13 and 9 in a win over Villanova? How about 12 and 7 in an NCAA tournament game against Oklahoma? And so I just bring it up because, again, you start talking about guys that were getting better as the season wore on. They're all coming back. You add Silas Demery, you add Braylon Mullins, you add 2 other freshmen, Furphy from Australia and Eric Ryby. And I'm here to by the way, Malachi Smith, transfer from Dayton. This is, I believe, a better constructed roster than last year, and now you're adding Alex Karaban back into that. To me, that is a very talented roster that has a chance to do very special things in 2025, 2026. I know whatever's, Torres, a year ago you said, no. It's a different year. I said a lot of things a year ago that don't apply now. What I'm telling you is UConn is better built. They are better constructed, and now they have Alex Karaban coming back. And I'm here to tell you, I think they're very much in that national championship picture. I actually re-released version 3 of my Way Too Early Top 25 on Tuesday morning. Maybe we discuss it on the next episode Thursday night or whenever we get a chance to discuss it. UConn's in my top 5. I don't want to spoil it, but I got Purdue up there. Purdue, of course, is bringing back 2 of the best players in the country, and Braden Smith and Trey Kaufman-Renn. Michigan, if Yaxel Lendenberg comes, I think is going to be good. And I got to say this, St. John's continues to pile up talent, but UConn is right in the mix with everybody. They're in the mix with BYU. They're in the mix with Kentucky. They're in the mix with whoever. Arkansas, doesn't really matter. I have UConn as a top 5 team, but I do think Karaban is the guy that pushes them over the top. And I think next year with the revamped roster, he is going to have a chance to thrive and have a chance to be better. So I am so excited about this. Ultimately, I think with the way the season went, with where his draft stock was, and with the way this process went, because I know we did talk about this probably 2 weeks ago when he was seen at the airport getting on the plane to Chicago. I think at first I expected him to go. Then as I think time went on, as we got through the weekend and he hadn't announced anything, I thought it'd be a little weird if he announced that he was going pro, kept the fan base waiting an extra 72 hours. Also, UConn wasn't really recruiting anybody else. So Alex Karaban is coming back, and I'm here to say when you add him in with the pieces that they already have, UConn very much a title contender. By the way, one other note at UConn. Mike Nardi in as an assistant coach. Mike Nardi, the former Villanova player, it was officially announced the same day as Alex Karaban that he's returning. Mike Nardi is in as an assistant coach. Why that stands out to me, I was at UConn when Mike Nardi played at Nova. Nova came in 2006 season. Nova and UConn were basically the 2 best teams in the country. UConn plays at Nova. I think it was about mid-February. UConn was the number 1 team in the country. They lose to Nova. They come back. They play UConn at Gamble Pavilion in February of 2006. I will tell you this. That was as loud as I have ever heard Gamble Pavilion, one of the best college games I've ever attended. UConn gets revenge. Now Mike Nardi, who was a key player on that team, shout out Alan Ray, shout out Randy Foy, shout out Mike Nardi. Kyle Lowry as well was on that team. Mike Nardi is officially a UConn assistant. That was announced on Tuesday. Tom Moore, the legend. I love Tom Moore. He is now UConn basketball's GM, going to handle most of the recruiting. All right, so what we're going to do, we're going to take a quick break, come back. When we do, we got to talk about some other college hoops notes. Chad Baker-Mazara, CBM, he's got a new home. We'll talk about him, Stojakovic. Duke added a guy. Oh, by the way, I saw an interesting stat on Kentucky basketball that I think is worth discussing. And then TMZ Torres has to dive into this Bill Belichick news. We're going to discuss it all next. Quick break. Be right back. All right, we're going to get back to the show in a minute. But before we do, I have so many people that reach out and say, Torres, you give me hours and hours and hours of free content every day, every month, every year. What can I do to help support the show? Well, you want to support the show and look good in the process. Make sure to check out and support the Aaron Torres Media merch store at aarontorresonline.com/merchandise. Some of you wondering, what can I get in that merch store, Torres? Well, Kentucky fans, we got our Mark Pope Hope and Pope t-shirts. That is right. Mark Pope, monster first year. Year 2 is going to be even better. Get your Hope and Pope t-shirt at aarontorresonline.com/merchandise. Arkansas fans, the Big Pig Invasion is coming. It is here. John Calipari has things rocking. Get your Big Pig Invasion tees. Again, aarontorresonline.com/merchandise. St. John's fans, we have our Big Rick Energy t-shirts. And if you're just a college basketball fan in general, guess what? Your March is for Day Drinking shirt. That is the shirt that you need year-round, but especially for the next NCAA tournament. You can order yours now. By the way, football fans, we got you covered too. Auburn fans, we already know the freeze warning has hit the plains. Make sure to get your freeze warning t-shirts. Also, Nebraska fans, new era, new rules, the t-shirt that you need before the start of this coming season. And oh, by the way, if you're a Colorado fan, if you're just a Coach Prime fan, we have our Dion shirts and hats, more of them than we know what to do with. So to check out the full line of Aaron Torres Media merch and also support the show, good news is we're going to have even more for the fall. Check out the Aaron Torres Media merch store at aarontorresonline.com/merchandise. And for more information, you can always reach out at Aaron Torres Podcast All right, everybody. I am back. Good to be back. Good to be back. So want to switch gears. The chat has me cracking up. You people are insane. What do we got here? There was somebody saying, what did I see that made me laugh? Oh, first, everyone is a Final Four team according to Torres in the offseason. Well, first of all, the offseason is where hopes and dreams, that's where they live. Get excited. Why can't I be by the way, I think every other top 25 has UConn in the top 5 or 10 or so. So I don't think it's a stretch. But yeah, no, there's a lot of good teams. We'll do our offseason grades here in a couple weeks. But yeah, I think UConn's right in the mix. Let's see. Nobody says, where's Matt? He's slacking since he went into a coma. The portal doesn't wait. Matt, I'm glad you're feeling better. By the way, Matt was down pretty bad there for a couple days. So was I, by the way, unrelated to anything. I saw one other one that I wanted to get to, but I forget where it was. So we'll get to all that in a minute. What I want to do, let's get to some other quick portal news. You know, the portal's starting to wind down. No new entrants, obviously. We'll wait on a couple big names. Desmond Claude's still in. I still think Boogie Fland is going to play college basketball next year. So if these guys announce or withdraw from the draft, Darian Williams, whatever, PJ Haggerty is still in there. If there's any updates, we'll keep you posted. 3 commitments happened over the last couple days. I just want to hit on them really quick. I don't think it's a 10 minutes on each, but let's do 2-3 minutes on each. The first one, boy, oh boy, oh boy. This one certainly caught everybody's attention. Chad Baker-Mazara, former Auburn Tiger. You last saw him at the Final Four. He was actually probably the best player for Auburn on the floor against Florida. Well, he entered the portal kind of, it just felt like an unhappy ending with Auburn. I think there were some issues. I think he felt like some of the guys that were coming in were maybe going to get more than him. Why is he not getting more? He played on a Final Four team, whatever. He decides to hit the portal. Well, on Monday morning, we wake up to the news that Chad Baker-Mazara, he's taking a trip last year in college on the Must Bus. He is going to play for Eric Musselman at USC, okay? So first of all, let me say this. Chad Baker-Mazara, listen, there's some negative to him, which we'll get into in a minute, but I think sometimes the negative overshadows the fact that there is a lot of positive. Like, there is a reason he was a key player at Auburn on a Final Four team and why USC was so intrigued to get him. He did average 11.5 points per game, 39% from the three-point line. He is an elite wing defender. And like I said, there were some games where he was Auburn's best player. 18 points in that Final Four game against Florida. He is very talented. The issue, of course, is, he runs a little hot sometimes. Did get ejected from an NCAA tournament game. That's never a great sign. That was against Yale in the 2024 NCAA tournament. Auburn lost. Did get ejected on senior day at Auburn this year against Alabama, the Iron Bowl basketball game in Auburn. He gets ejected. So he certainly runs hot. He certainly runs cold, but he is a very talented player. And I think that'll be the interesting thing with Eric Musselman. You all know I have a great relationship with Coach Muss. I love Coach Muss. I went to some of their practices this past year. Coach Muss is I'll say this, obviously, look, former NBA head coach, 3 second weekends at Arkansas. I just bring it up because it's going to be interesting to see. Coach Muss is not easy to play for, but listen, the results speak for themselves. I mean, first of all, I'm turning on these NBA playoffs. Every night there's a guy that Coach Muss coached. I was watching the Celtics game the other day. Jordan Walsh was playing. Anthony Black for the Orlando Magic. By the way, I flipped on a Warriors game the other night. Moses Moody is about to take off like a freaking rocket ship, okay? Coach Muss, not an easy guy to play for, though, and it'll just be interesting to see the dynamic between him and Chad Baker-Mazara because Chad Baker-Mazara, like I said, can run a little bit hot. The good thing I will say, if it works out, USC all of a sudden is now a very intriguing team on paper. Elijah Arenas, I think the great news that we've all seen over the last couple days, he is the 5-star son of Gilbert Arenas. He was released from the hospital. I don't even know if we talked about it on the show, but got into what was deemed to be a very bad car crash, medically induced coma. Was an awful story to read. We later find out that maybe the medically induced coma was more of a precautionary thing because he inhaled a bunch of smoke. But anyway, he was released from the hospital. So listen, his health is number one, but you think if he's released from the hospital that he'll be playing basketball again at some point. So that's a great sign. Rodney Rice, who transferred in from Maryland, 14 points per game for Maryland, Sweet 16 team. They have the big center from Virginia. USC is going to be much improved next year. Now, does it result in a NCAA tournament, Sweet 16, Final Four? I don't know. All I do know is that I think they kind of got lost a little bit in the shuffle this year. I think Coach Muss had a better idea of what he's looking for. By the way, it's really good three-point shooting. He's got his lead guard, Desmond Claude, left, but Elijah Arenas is going to have the ball in his hands. USC now with Chad Baker-Mazara all of a sudden is a very interesting team. As I said, I released my way too early top 25 the other day, or I released my updated one on Tuesday morning. USC isn't in the top 25 yet, but I think they're about a top 30 or so team, probably about a top 6 or 7 team in the Big Ten. Very excited for year 2 of the Coach Muss era at USC. Chad Baker-Mazara is a Trojan. Let's keep it going. Number 2, we did a little bit of a deep dive on him on Monday on the Aaron Torres pod. That is because Andrei Stojakovic was at Cal, committed to Illinois. Love this commitment. Okay, so we did the deep dive. If you want a lot of analysis on this, you can find a standalone segment on the YouTube channel. Andrei Stojakovic, he was one of the best players in the ACC this past year. 18 points per game, about 5.5 rebounds per game, 33 points in the 2 ACC tournament games, as you can see on the screen. Why I think it's important is 2 things. One, first of all, I actually think there's another level for him to get to. He was a great three-point shooter in high school, and it just hasn't translated in college. And he was a great playmaker with the ball in his hands. And I do wonder if that's just part of he was on kind of a team that he needed to do a lot on this year at Cal. And I think with more talent around him, could he be successful? I bring it up because this is big for Illinois too. Illinois, in my opinion, by the way, updated top 25. This cements them, in my opinion, as a top 25 team. The Avicic brothers are both there, Tomislav and Zvonimir. We'll talk about Big Z in a second, to something else that kind of was interesting over the last couple days. And then, as I said, they've really kind of gone all in on the international side of things. And, did we talk about this? I can't remember. So much stuff has happened over the last couple weeks. But what has been interesting is they've really dove into the international stuff. And, they add 2 players from Europe, David Mirkovic, who, of course, was in the Nike Hoop Summit. Oh, by the way, Mihailo Petrovic, okay? I'm not going to sit here and lie and say that I know everything there is to know about Adriatic League basketball, but I'll also say this. I will also say that that at the same time, what is important about that is that he was deemed one of the best players in Europe, not in the NBA. Now he's coming to play college basketball. By the way, producer Matt, I didn't ask for it, but I'll just call for it really quickly. You can get us back on the main screen, but I loved Brad Underwood posting this picture. They have gone heavy on the Euros now. Andrei Stojakovic was born in the U.S., but as you can see here, Brad Underwood just telling it like it is, just living his best European life. So Andrei Stojakovic, I think, to me, makes them a top 25 team. Very intriguing in the Big Ten. Producer Matt, I'll let you get to the next one. Cedric Coward, Duke, latest commitment here. So Duke's an interesting team. First of all, heard this stat. Duke is one of only 3 teams that did not lose a single player to the transfer portal this offseason, okay? Now, part of that is they had 4 guys declare for the pros. So, there's obviously going to be playing time to be had. But it felt like after all 4 of those guys left, especially Tyrese Proctor, we knew Cooper Flagg was going, Kaman Malawach was going, Con Knipple was going. When Tyrese Proctor decided to go, because I think he's probably a second-round pick, if not undrafted, probably a second-round pick, though, you knew they were going to need help in the front in the portal. They get it with Cedric Coward. We talked about him a few days ago, and probably, I think it was when the portal closed. He is a player, really talented, interesting story. Started at the D3 level, goes to Eastern Washington, goes to Washington State this year, averages 18 points per game. Now, unfortunately, he hurt himself and only played in 6 games total this year, but 6'6" in the NBA draft right now, testing the process. I think at this point, maybe he stays in the draft. I'll say this. I don't think it's inconceivable that he stays in the draft, but he does commit to Duke. Let's work under the assumption that he's going to be back. And if he does come back, I think this is kind of a piece that they needed. I like Duke's roster in 2025, 2026. Cam Boozer, I think Cam Boozer probably should be the ACC preseason player of the year. Like, I think that should be the expectation. I actually think Caden Boozer is probably a little bit better than people realize. You bring back Isaiah Evans, the big wing who had a couple really big games, including against Auburn early in the season. But I just bring it up because it felt like you needed at least one more guy. It felt like you needed at least one more guy to really be a difference maker. Cedric Coward comes in, and I'll tell you this: if he stays, I think it does elevate Duke a little bit. I have Duke as a fringe top 10 team. But Cedric Coward is officially a Duke Blue Devil. Now we'll see again. He is testing the NBA draft process. That's different than Chad Baker-Mazara. That's different than Andrei Stojakovic. So nothing is 100% certain yet that he is staying in college basketball. One more college hoops story before we get to Bill Belichick and TMZ Torres here. I do want to talk a little bit of Kentucky. Okay, so this isn't a huge story. But, listen, Kentucky's always in the news. There's always something going on with the Wildcats that's at least worth discussing. And I saw a stat that kind of caught my attention about who Kentucky is and really who they can be, okay? Because we all saw year one of the Mark Pope era. It exceeded everyone's expectations, including mine. Sweet 16. They beat Duke when they're at full strength. They beat Gonzaga when they're at full strength. They sweep Tennessee. They a million great wins. They beat Florida. They beat the eventual national champions at full strength, okay? But I just bring it up because of the fact that by the end of the year, you get kind of worn down by injuries. You were kind of an okay but not great defensive team all year. And as I've said, it felt like there were some major priorities in the portal when Mark Pope went in there. So what is the stat and what does it say about this season? So first of all, producer Matt, you can pop up the tweet from Evan Miyakawa. So Evan Miyakawa is one of these analytics guys. I've met him a couple times. Great guy, works hard. And he puts together all these different analytics, and I'm not going to try to claim to know what's going on in his computer. But he ran a model of who were the 5 best players defensively that entered the portal this year and where are they going. Number 1 is Jaden Quaintance going to Kentucky. Number 2 is Merez Johnson going to Michigan. Number 3 is Big Z, which I know that shocked Arkansas fans and Kentucky fans as well, but Big Z, according to the model, is. Number 4 is Mo Diabate, who is going to Kentucky, and number 5 is Mustafa Thiem, who is headed to Cincinnati from UCF. I bring it up because this graphic, this fact that Kentucky has 2 of the top 4 defensive players in the portal, it confirms what I have been saying all offseason. Mark Pope learned some very important lessons in year 1 at Kentucky. I think he has applied them to his second roster, and this is why I am so excited about this 2025-2026 team. Okay, so first of all, like first of all, 2 players. Let me even talk about the players because I'll say this. I was thinking about this. Jaden Quaintance. Okay, so Jaden Quaintance right now is dealing, had knee surgery. He's in recovery mode. Okay, all reports are that he is going to be hopefully healthy by, back on the court by late summer, hopefully healthy by November, the start of the season. If Jaden Quaintance is healthy at any point this season, I don't think it's hyperbole, in my opinion, to say that he might be one of the 5 best players in college basketball this year. Okay. Now listen, players aren't ever going to jump off the page if they don't average 20 points per game. Okay. But Jaden Quaintance, think about this. He was 17. He turned 17 last July. He played his entire season as a 17-year-old in the Big 12 against Houston, against BYU, against Arizona. He averaged 9.5 points, 8 boards, and 2.5 blocks, closer to 3 as a 17-year-old in the Big 12. So can you imagine the leap that he is going to make as a sophomore playing major college basketball, okay? And so to me, I think this kid is due for a breakout. But again, 2.5 blocks as a freshman, as a 17-year-old. He won't be 18 until July of this coming summer. So he's 17 right now and had 2.5 blocks and played elite defense in the second best conference in college basketball behind the SEC. Secondly, shout out Evan Mia for this. I love Mo Diabate. I just don't think there's ever any way to tangibly show how good a guy is defensively if he's not a 7-footer blocking a million shots or a perimeter. And so Mo Diabate, to me, When he committed, I said, look, I love this commitment. And people said, oh, Torres, you're overhyping him because he's committed to Kentucky. I'm like, no. This guy is elite defensively, plays crazy hard. He's just, listen, Nate Oates, what is Nate Oates called? The hard hat guys. He gives out a hard hat for like the most deflections and steals and whatever every game. Mo Diabate was the quintessential hard hat guy for Nate Oates this year. Again, the stats don't blow you away if you didn't watch Alabama on a day in, day out basis. But at the same time, Mo Diabate to me was one of their best and most consistent players. And by the way, I know Alabama wanted to keep him. It was just like, hey, we have to prioritize other guys with our financial situation, and we can't keep everybody. So this is a guy in Alabama's win at Rupp Arena. 8 points, 8 rebounds, 3 assists, and a block. I know that doesn't blow you off the page, but think about how good that game was and how well Kentucky was playing at that time. 8 blocks, 8 rebounds, and probably the toughest road environment that he played all year. 22 points and 10 boards with a block and a steal against Vandy. We got 13 points and 10 rebounds and 4 assists against Missouri. 10 points and 11 boards against Mississippi State. Oh, by the way, in the SEC tournament, 12 points and 12 boards against Florida in the semifinals. So I'm not trying to read off a stat sheet, but what I am trying to say, I think he is so much better than he gets credit for because he doesn't have the countable stats that stand out, but this is an elite defensive player, and this speaks to what I've been saying since Mark Pope put together this roster. Listen, last year was about establishing his identity. Mark Pope had short amount of time to put together a roster. Did an amazing job, of course. But, you get into the season, and when you're healthy, everything's humming. But we've talked about it. By the end of the year, Lamont Butler's playing with one shoulder. Jackson Robinson's out for the year. Andrew Carr was in and out of the lineup with back injuries. And you could just see by the end of the year, it was like, oh, this team just doesn't have enough oomph to it. No disrespect to Travis Perry, who's no longer with Kentucky. Trent Noah, who's probably going to be your 12th, 13th guy next year. Colin Chandler is probably going to be your 10th or 11th guy next year. If those guys are playing significant minutes in big SEC games, it's probably not going to work out well. It's just not, okay? And so I just bring it up because by the end of the year, you could see the difference in size and physicality every time Kentucky took the court. Go back to the Alabama game in the SEC. By the way, Oklahoma, which was a fringe tournament team, easily could have lost to them in the SEC tournament. Easily could have lost at Oklahoma late in the season. That's not a knock. I'm just saying that's not the standard at Kentucky. And so you go into the SEC tournament, you lose to Alabama, the athleticism and physicality, it's not even close. And then, of course, against Tennessee, it was kind of the same. And so I've said all offseason, I've said Mark Pope has very clearly made a decision. He is sacrificing a little bit of skill. Listen, he had a lot of skill on last year's roster, but not necessarily the athleticism, not necessarily the physicality that he needed. At some point, you just have to have guys that when things break down can make a play, that when the ball goes on the rim, you just go get an offensive rebound and you get a putback, that you can get a big stop when you need to, something that Kentucky couldn't do for most of the year. I mean, listen, go back and look at Kentucky's games. They were able to win for probably the first 60% of the season only one way. They had to score 85 points or they were losing. Now, by the end of the year, they were better defensively, but it was clear that Mark Pope was going to add size and athleticism, toughness, and he needed more of a defensive presence going into 2025, 2026. So Jalen Lowe is probably, different player than Lamont Butler, but he's crazy athletic and he can go get you a bucket if he needs to. Mo Diabate can shut people down in a way that I don't know that anybody for Kentucky other than Lamont Butler could last year. Jaden Quayens, again, I think is going to be one of the best players in college basketball if he comes back healthy. Brandon Garrison is the same. Otega Owe very much as well. So I'll tell you this, Kentucky's an interesting team. Nobody actually mentioned in the chat, shout out nobody, is that he said that Mark Pope basically said, hey man, look, I'll start doing post-season interviews when my roster is complete. He has not done very many, which seems to indicate that he is still very much in recruiting mode. Now, I think outside of Otega Owe, assuming Otega Owe eventually comes back, I don't think there's like a major piece for Kentucky to add. But I just bring it up because if Kentucky, even though they probably don't have a major piece to add, by the way, if Otega Owe goes in the draft, then you're kind of screwed because there's not that kind of player left over in the portal. But the counter to that is that if Otega Owe comes back, I think right now you're looking for role players. You're looking for 9th, 10th guys, 5th, 6th guy off the bench. So I think Kentucky is in pretty good shape. But this stat blew me away. 2 of the top 5 defenders in the portal this offseason are Kentucky Wildcats. And again, I think you can see very clearly Pope is prioritizing size, athleticism, toughness, and he got plenty of it with Jaden Quaintance and Mo Diabate. By the way, he had plenty coming back with Otega Owe and Brandon Garrison as well. I know it's only April. I know we got 11 months till we crown another national champion, and about 6 before the games get played, but I cannot wait to watch this team. All right, this is what I want to do. I want to come back. When we come back, by the way, somebody mentioned this. Adam in the chat, good call. I got to talk about Cam Williams too. Cam Williams is a crazy athlete out of Tulane that I'm probably not giving enough credit for this offseason. All right, so done talking Kentucky. This is what we're going to do. We're going to take a quick break. We talk a lot of college football on this show as well. We haven't as much the last month and a half because of all the college basketball. Just bring it up. College football has certainly been in the mainstream the last couple days with all this Bill Belichick and Bill Belichick's young lady stuff. We got to talk a little Belichick. We're doing it. TMZ Torres. Quick break. Be right back. What's up, everybody? It's AT, and listen, long day of podcasting. Sometimes don't always look the best. So look at this. It's a little bit not great, okay? Well, here is the great news. The great people at Filebox said, Torres, you're a professional. You just got 50,000 subscribers on YouTube. You need to look better. And so they sent me a couple awesome things. I want to pull them out for you right now. This is all from the winter collection, by the way. Spring collection is coming out. We got the vest, very, very, very nice. The sweater, very professional for when I go to professional events. We got these nice blue jeans. I think the question now everybody's asking is, Torres, how do you actually look when you put that stuff on? Let's find out. Well, what do you think? Sweater fits perfectly. Great for all occasions. When I go to games, when I go out to a dinner, warm weather, cool weather, it's perfect. Speaking of perfect, these jeans are phenomenal. Great for games, great for social events. Oh, by the way, a little bit stretchy if those New Year's resolutions aren't going on as planned. Really quickly, we got to try out. Let's try out the vest. It fits perfectly, not a surprise. So here's the deal. If you want to look as good as Torres, this is what I need you to do. I need you to go to Fileboc.com. That's F-I-O-B-O-C. Fileboc.com. And here's the best part. For listeners to the Aaron Torres pod, you get 20% off with code Torres20 at checkout. We also put a referral link in all of our YouTube videos. Thank you to Fileboc. By the way, make sure you're following them on social media at F-I-O-B-O-C. Thank you to Fileboc. You want to look as good as Torres, check them out. Again, promo code Torres20. All right, everybody. I'm back. Good to be back. Final segment of the show. So good to be back. By the way, Kentucky fans in the chat asking, why did I not talk about Denzel Aberdeen? Listen, we're just referencing the guys that were on that stat sheet, okay? So, Cam Williams is an athlete. Denzel Aberdeen. We got plenty. Listen, what do we got? It's April 29th right now, okay? No, preseason doesn't even start till October, so we got plenty of time to break down the entire depth chart. By the way, probably later this week, maybe early next week, we'll do our updated top 25. I will start doing my off-season grades, and we're gonna have a couple interviews. Gonna knock your socks off, don't you worry. Plenty of college hoops still, even as the portal winds down. With that said, do want to go ahead and switch gears, and I'll tell you this. We talk a lot of college football on this show as well. This is sort of a college football topic, but it is also, oh, by the way, a little bit of a TMZ-ish type topic as well. But let me say this. A lot of the mainstream, college sports shows won't touch this. I'm diving 2 feet in, okay? We got to talk a little bit about Bill Belichick and that girlfriend that he's got. And it's no disrespect. It's no whatever. There they are. Look at them. The happy couple. So let's go ahead and dive in. My thing is, listen, I'm here to talk about the stuff that you want to talk about. And I will tell you this, I've gotten more texts, more DMs about this topic than any other college sports topic. You think people want to talk about the portal? No, they want to talk about what's going on with Bill Belichick, with this young lady. So TMZ Torres, this is a new segment. We're going to call him TMZ Torres. Whenever there's something like this, we're going to go ahead and dive in. But let's talk a little bit about Bill Belichick. So first of all, let me start by being very modern, very 21st century. What happens between a man and a woman in the privacy of their own home? Not my business, okay? Do I think 73-year-old man and 24-year-old woman is something that it's not normal, it's not whatever? Do I think they're going to make Disney movies out of that going forward? Probably not. We saw another, by the way, a 54-year-old former NFL tight end. He's getting in some trouble because he had a 20-year-old girl, whatever. That's completely different. Okay. That has nothing to do with anything, but I'm only bringing it up because 73-year-old man, 24-year-old woman feels a little bit to me, but if they're happy, that's their business, whatever. I don't care. I don't care. Same time though, it certainly has gotten interesting. We saw the story around spring ball, that basically any correspondence between the school, University of North Carolina, where he's obviously the head football coach, and Bill Belichick has to go through her. And then we had this thing on Sunday morning that made all sorts of waves. Okay, so apparently Bill Belichick has a new book out, which I wasn't even aware of. And I only bring it up because he was on CBS Sunday Morning News. It was actually Dave Portnoy that was the first one to tweet out the video that I saw. We're not going to play the video. It's like 2.5 minutes long. 2, we don't have the rights to do it, so we could just, get booted off YouTube. But basically, it's a video promoting the book, but it's interesting for a few things. One, Belichick, even with his girlfriend in the building, he's wearing the old beat up holes in the t-shirt, navy shirt. Okay, so that was one. Like a lot of people, I was a little surprised that the young lady hasn't made him put on a shirt without holes. Neither here nor there, whatever. 2, what was also interesting was part of it, any question he didn't want to ask, he goes old school Belichick and he doesn't really answer it and blah, 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 and da-da-da-da-da, and, it's 1-word answers, 2-word answers, whatever. But what got really interesting was during the interview, this was on TV, you saw Bill Belichick asked a question about how he met his 24-year-old girlfriend. I believe her name is Jordan Hudson. Is that correct? I think it's Jordan Hudson. 24-year-old girlfriend. And as he's asking it, the girlfriend is in the room and she says, oh, he's not answering that question. Next question, he's not answering it. And then we find out after the fact that there was 2 or 3 different times where she interrupted the interview. And we found out after the fact, by the way, that CBS actually only aired her interrupting to kind of explain why the interview was such a train wreck. Okay. So train wreck interview, Sunday morning, Belichick, whatever. To me, though, it's still not a story. This is when it became a story, though. TMZ did a follow-up report on late Monday after the interview. And it's, probably a 250, 300-word article. But producer Matt put up the caption that I wanted you to get because I think there is an important part. The final 2 paragraphs, that to me is the money quote that needs to be discussed. In the article, it says the whole ordeal also isn't sitting well with Bill's employers. We're told folks at UNC are now concerned about Hudson's influence on Belichick's tenure as the head football coach in Chapel Hill, especially with her essentially taking his role as manager. As a source put it, there's a, quote, growing sense there could be a problem. All right, let's talk about this a little bit. And first of all, that's what I'm going to try to do. I'm going to try to pseudo-defend this because, again, people kept asking me about it, and I'll be real. I haven't quite found it as weird as everybody else. Now, I think 73-year-old, 24-year-old, I think that's weird, okay? Whatever. If they're happy, whatever. I'll also defend them a little bit on this because people wanted me to talk about it. It comes out during spring ball. Oh, that she handles all his, she has to be CC'd on everything, blah, 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 this and that. Same time, though, I'll defend them on that. Has anyone dealt with a 70-something-year-old and technology? Like, most 70-something-year-olds are not very good with a computer, are not very good with the internet, are not very good with email. By the way, Bill Belichick's an old school football coach. He is now in a university environment where everything has to be documented in this. He's not on his email all day. But I think more importantly, you deal with a 70-something-year-old. There's a lot of times where somebody's helping them. I'll just give you an example. My father-in-law, love him to death, 75 years old, still going strong, still goes to work every day, everything. But whenever there's something that has to go on, either my wife or my sister-in-law is involved. If it's a, correspondence with a doctor, if it's a this, if it's a that, they're in the middle of it. And when I saw Jordan Hudson CC'd on all his emails, I was like, that's like my life. I mean, whatever. He's old. Whatever. He's old. Who cares? And then I'll also say this is that even during the interview, when she kind of interrupted, I'll also say this, as somebody who does interviews all the time on college campuses, there's usually somebody in the room. Now, it's usually not a girlfriend. It's usually an administrator from the school. But if they think there's a question that's going to make an athlete or a coach look bad, they jump in all the time. So again, to me, most of it wasn't that weird. But then I will say, when you see the interview, when you see the mannerisms, by the way, producer Matt, you can go ahead and pop up the Nicole Auerbach tweet. So apparently the girlfriend on her Instagram page is now posting Bill Belichick's personal emails. Now, this one is basically complaining about the interview, whatever, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, I think it's time for Torres to say, like, I try to look at the best of everything. I think it's time to say it's a little bit time to be worried, okay? Because first of all, I'll say this. It's one thing you want to date, you want to do whatever, blah, blah, blah. When your employer is worried, I think that's when it's safe to say that this thing probably isn't going well. Again, one thing if there's a 50-year age difference. One thing if there's a generational gap where she's helping them fill in. It's another thing when the employer is telling TMZ, yeah, this is starting to worry us a little bit. We can't get a hold of them. She has too much control. And I'll say this, like, I'm not a marriage counselor. I'm not trying to jump in and psychoanalyze anybody. If you watch the full segment on Bill Belichick and you can watch it, you can tell that she's trying to take control. But two, this is what concerns me. She's posting personal information on her Instagram. And so what this strikes me as is that this is a 24-year-old that very clearly has never been in the public spotlight before, has never taken criticism. I saw something else where she was retweeting people that were defending her. And I'll just say this, starting to feel like a little bit of a train wreck. And when I think about the Bill Belichick era, I'll say this. I've already gone through the 7 stages with Bill Belichick. When he got hired at UNC, I kind of thought it was going to be a disaster. You know, he comes in with it's a professional model now, and we'll spend money. And it's like, well, everybody has money. Like, sorry, Bill Belichick, you're not going to have any more money than Ohio State has, than Tennessee has, than Georgia has, than Michigan has, than whatever. So I was just like, dude, is he going to do the work? Is he going to put in the time? Because it isn't just bring this player in, kick this player out. You have to build relationships. Everybody's got money to get the players that you need to win at the highest levels. I'm sorry, you need more than just a little bit of money. Everybody's got money. You need something else. Ohio State has just as much money. Alabama has just as much money. Georgia has just as much money. So I was kind of out on the Belichick thing to begin with. Then I will say, early in the process, it seemed pretty clear that he was at least willing to try to recruit. I remember talking about this probably in January, but number 1 quarterback in America, Jared Curtis, basically was doing the number 1 quarterback in the class of 2026 was doing the in-home visits round where he basically brought in coaches from all over the country. Dan Lanning was there, Kirby Smart was there, and Bill Belichick was there. So I sat there and thought, maybe, just maybe, this is going to work out. Maybe he's willing to put in the work. But I'll tell you this kind of has me feeling like it's just going to be a train wreck, that maybe he doesn't really have as much control as he used to. I'll be honest, it kind of looked like maybe she has too much control. This is not the Bill Belichick that I remember from New England. This is not we're on to Cincinnati. I mean, it might be a kinder, softer Bill Belichick, but North Carolina didn't hire the kinder, softer Bill Belichick. Now, what'll be interesting is the ACC is so bad it might not matter. And I was looking at the North Carolina schedule on Tuesday before we did this segment. They do play Clemson first week in November, but no Florida State, no Miami, no SMU. So there's a chance it's pretty good. But I'll be honest, I've never really bought that he was totally invested in the collegiate model. 2, this whole relationship thing is weird. I think she has too much control, too much say. I think, frankly, he cares too much about what she has to say about stuff. I have a feeling this is going to be bad. I think it's going to be bad. I think what it's really honestly going to be, you know what I think it's going to be? I think it's going to be forgettable. I think it's going to be, everybody talks about like Willie Mays with the New York Mets, kind of just like this train wreck at the end of a career. I always reference, remember Patrick Ewing played for the Seattle Supersonics and the Orlando Magic. We only remember Patrick Ewing with the Knicks, but he played with the Sonics. He played with the Orlando Magic. Hakeem Olajuwon, if you remember, played for like a game or two with the Toronto Raptors. This is feeling like Hakeem in a Raptors uniform. I think in like 30 years, we'll be like, oh, remember that like 1 to 2 years that Belichick was at North Carolina and it was kind of a disaster and he had that girlfriend, whatever. Yeah. So there's TMZ Torres with your Torres update, but apparently North Carolina not happy with Bill Belichick right now. Really quickly before we get out of here, producer Matt, any interesting comments in the chat, or is it just nobody lecturing everybody about everything? Okay, UK till I die. I think that's our girl Pam. She says, shut up, nobody. I want a shout out. Shout out, Pam. We appreciate your support. Sorry there's not as many people in the chat for you to argue with and fight with today. I know that's what you do best. I know you like to pick fights, so we appreciate your support, Pam. Anything else, producer Matt, or is that basically it for today? Okay. So nobody had his time in the sun. Pam got her time at the end. Really quickly before we get out of here, there's just one other half a thing that I want to do. I want to thank somebody. I want to thank the Chicken Man, John Tyson. Okay, so if you listen to the show, it was probably about 3 or 4 episodes ago, I mentioned at the end of the show, I said, so we have this TV monitor behind my screen, behind me here, okay? The Aaron Torres pod is a monster, okay? I'm not even trying to brag. I'm just telling you as a fact. Reached like 4 million people in 2024. We are trending to crush that number in 2025. Well over 1 million viewers just since March 1st. If you want to advertise on this screen, you let us know. And what I said was, if you work with a beer company, you work with Miller Lite, you work with Coors, you work with Pacifico, you work with Corona, whatever, hit us up. Let's get your logo on here. Let's have you be a presenting sponsor of the Aaron Torres pod. You work with one of those Kentucky bourbon distilleries, Kentucky Bourbon. You work there. Let's get this logo on there. You work at a sports bar, Buffalo Wild Wings, walk-ons, whatever. Let's get your logo up there. But I also mentioned, hey, Tyson, we're waiting for your call, Tyson. Okay, so Tyson saw that. This is Tyson Chicken, of course, the Chicken Man, who, of course, John Tyson is a very big supporter of all things Arkansas. The Tyson family is. I noticed, they built the track building, whatever. But the folks at Tyson saw us shout them out on this show, decided to send me some stuff in the mail. So I want to give a quick shout out to Tyson. I did an unboxing live at home on Monday afternoon. We shared it on YouTube. We shared it on Twitter. We shared it on Instagram. Decided to share it here. Thanks to Tyson. Producer Matt, play the video. A couple episodes ago, the Aaron Torres pod, we were just kind of doing shout outs at the end of the episode. Gave a quick shout out to the folks at Tyson. And they told me, hey, we're going to go ahead and put some stuff in the mail for you. So I have no idea what they sent. But first of all, I want to thank Tyson for sending some stuff to the old Torres household. I think I got some chicken nuggets. I think I got some clothes to wear. But I've been watching some John Gruden unboxing videos. Let's see if I can do better than him. And this is in real time, so I don't know what they sent, but thank you to the Chicken Man, John Tyson. We appreciate you. Shout out Trevin Brazil. Shout out DJ Wagner. Shout out Sam Pittman. Shout out John Calipari. All right, let's see what we got here. Hopefully I don't ruin anything. Now we got to cut this. Yeah, I've been watching these John Gruden unboxing videos. They're incredible. I can't possibly match the energy, but let's take a look here again. Shout out Trevor Brazil. Going to be a beast in 2025-26. All right, hold on. So now this is just embarrassing. All right. So first of all, there is a note on here. We heard the recent shout out on your podcast about how much you love Tyson Razorback Nuggets. Thanks for being a fan of Tyson Food. So thank you again, Trevor Brazil, John Tyson, etc. Let's see here what we got here. Oh my goodness. All right. So we got the Razorback Chicken Nuggets. Carter Notch, shout out Carter Notch, Chicken Man, we appreciate that. Let's see here, we got lightly breaded chicken strips, so thank you for that. And then we have more. My dog is very interested. I'll bring her up here in a second. Let's see what else we got here. Let's see here. All right. Got a little Tyson Foods hat, so thank you again, John Tyson. DJ Wagner, shout out DJ Wagner. Let's see what else we got here. Oh, we got a t-shirt, okay. Tyson Foods, Tyson Chicken, thank you. And of course, we got a Woo Pig Suey Razorbacks Nugget plush. Not sure exactly what that does, but thank you. Oh, and a beer koozie. So thank you to Tyson. Appreciate your support of the Aaron Torres pod. And again, shout out Trevor Brazil, DJ Wagner, John Kelly. So again, just want to thank Tyson for their support of the Aaron Torres pod, and it is time for me to get out of here. Hold on one sec. It's like a commitment video. I'm officially committed to Tyson Chicken, all my chicken nugget needs. I ate probably no less than 25 chicken nuggets on, what was it, Monday? I had a lot of Tyson in me. I'll just tell you that much. I had a lot of Tyson. So thank you to Tyson. We appreciate your support. Chicken Man, we appreciate you. I might even have a cold one here as we wrap the show. It's only 4 o'clock Pacific time, but going to go eat some chicken nuggets and use my Tyson Foods koozie. Time for me to get out of here. I appreciate your support. Shout out to Mr. Chicken Man, Mr. Tyson, John Tyson, and Tyson Foods. Thank you for the care package. By the way, had somebody reach out. Maybe the Torres unboxing thing will officially become a thing because, by the way, yeah, everyone's like, oh, Torres, you're a shill for Tyson Chicken. No, I'm a shill for anybody who sends me free stuff, okay? So I know, what is it? The Kraft family is the big Kentucky boosters. You want to send me a bunch of stuff, Kraft family? To quote Deion Sanders, I ain't hard to find, okay? Mike Rapoli, the big booster for St. John's, I ain't hard to find. Mark D'Amelio from UConn, I ain't hard to find, okay? But I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. Time for me to go. Shout out to Torrin Craig. Shout out to Rachel, who hates my voice. Shout out to JJ Redick, you F-Ed. 1 game away, bro. JJ Redick, you better. I was told JJ Redick was the new Pat Riley. By the time you listen to this, the Lakers might be eliminated. And finally, shout out to the Chicken Man, John Tyson, for your support of the show. Time for me to get out of here. Thank you again, and we will be back Thursday night. A lot of good stuff to get into. Maybe a big interview. Keep you updated. Appreciate your support. Talk to everybody soon.